Hi, and welcome back to Grade 8 Math. This is Section 2, Lesson 1, and the first video in this lesson. This is Ms. Clemens-Brenton, and in this video we will look at several ways that a graph can be manipulated to misrepresent the data, including omitting the baseline, manipulating the axes, and cherry-picking. Statistics are sometimes misleading. The choice of graph, the way a graph is constructed, or omitted information can all impact the overall idea that is being conveyed. When a graph misrepresents the data, an incorrect conclusion is often derived. Therefore, it is important to be able to recognize the common misrepresentations of data to avoid being misled. In this section, we will analyze the various characteristics of numerous graphs. As an example, I want you to observe this graph and think about the following questions. What is the main message conveyed by the graph? Why might the data be misinterpreted? Who do you think might have constructed the graph? And how could this graph be changed? Sometimes graphs are truncated or torn to save time and space. This means that the vertical axis does not start at the baseline, which in most cases is 0. The average for 3 math classes is displayed on the graphs to the right. Graph A omits the baseline, which means it does not start at 0. On this graph, it looks like there is a large difference between the class averages. Now look at the change in the graph when the graph starts at 0. Notice the difference in the graphs. Graph B displays the information accurately. When the vertical axis begins at 0, we can see that the difference between the class averages is not as dramatic as first thought. So when the vertical axis starts at a number other than 0, the change in values will often appear exaggerated. Changing the scale on the y-axis can drastically change the way a graph looks, making the changes seem more or less significant. Depending on the idea the creator of the graph is trying to convey, a small scale or a larger scale will often be chosen. The graphs to the right display the same information. While both graphs are drawn correctly, a different scale was chosen when creating the graphs. Notice the difference. Graph A makes it seem as if there was a huge jump in house sales. Graph B makes the increase in house sales appear very small. When we look at the scale, we can see that the numbers didn't change a whole lot. There's a difference of only 8 sales between year 3 and 4. Not as big a difference as Graph A might make you think. So when a smaller scale is used, the data points are more spread out. This increases the distance between the points and makes the change in values seem more drastic. Cherry picking is when certain data is purposefully chosen or omitted, using only the information that supports a particular point of view. The graphs to the right use the same vertical scale and same data. However, the message being conveyed seems to be quite different. The first graph appears to show a dramatic increase in costs. When we look closely at the graph, we can see that the graph displays data for the years 2017 to 2020. The second graph shows a recent decrease in costs. While there was a rise between the years 2017 to 2020, we can see that the costs are actually declining when the most recent information is included. The first graph only included the time span when there was a noticeable increase in costs. So the conclusion here is that when we only use a portion of the data, we can create a false impression. When all the data is used, a bigger picture is revealed. Please proceed to the next video in this lesson.